No. Tom Hanks. This is going to be the intro of this podcast. Is where did the line sibilance come from?
I only think of Unique New York and his Anchorman.
Hey,
so
there we
we're
go.
on the same page,
Anchorman.
me and him, for sure.
Well, let's get right into it, man. So, Carrtoons is here, and guys,
Yes,
that's
sir.
not his name.
Ben
But
Carr.
Ben Carr is his
Legal
name. For those
name.
that thought his name was Carrtoons,
Benjamin.
He's not. Benjamin Carr, man.
Let's get
Thanks
it
so
right.
much for joining us on the podcast, man. This is
pleasure to be
really
here.
exciting, man. Honestly, for me.
Yes.
I got introduced to your work through a friend of mine with the Upstate album.
Oh, okay. Right
Which I know we're going to talk a little bit about,
Mm-hmm.
sort of the catalog today, but Upstate was kind of the first thing I came into hearing your work. And for those that don't know you, who are you?
I am a bass player / producer from, I tell people, upstate New York. It's not that far upstate.
Hey.
It's a Hudson Valley area. I'm from a small town called Rosendale, New York. And I've been playing music for 20 years, messing around.
I feel like people have this misconception about New York. Like they think New York and it's like Empire State and stuff, but it's like New York's huge.
Yeah, it once you get a little bit past my house up north, it does become the South pretty quickly.
It changes real quick.
Yeah, things get a little funky once you get above Albany, but I didn't say that.
Well, because we were like saying earlier that like the idea of like New York City is one thing, and then obviously upstate or New York State is a different thing.
Yeah.
And you're either on like one camp or the other.
Yeah, totally.
And so
Totally.
you're personally what? You're more on upper city.
I don't.
do you think?
I'm somewhere in the middle. That's my whole
Okay.
life. Is like I'm caught in between.
Interesting.
And I think the whole album Upstate, I was living in the city, but I kept going to my folks' house to make music because I'm just like kind of a country guy and I like being out of the city a lot. So I kept just saying, I'm going upstate. And people are like, oh, where upstate? Are you going to Syracuse? Are you going to? And I'm like, no, I'm not going there. So that, you have that conversation enough over and over again. And it kind of becomes kind of a funny thing. You're like, okay, I'm going upstate.
It's a lot of explanations.
Yeah, it's a lot of explanation. And yeah, it's just become this. And it also is a funny, I didn't even realize this, but like means going to jail for some people. I'm going upstate.
Oh,
that's
like
code for going to jail.
No, I didn't know
I
that.
didn't know that till I put an album out about it.
I mean, I'm New York City, so you just say Rikers, and that's all I know.
Well, that's another
that's
thing.
our version.
Yeah, but there's apparently I'm already saying things that are ridiculous and are easily Googleable as not true. But somebody told me that is a term for going to prison as well, which is not what I was referring to. I was just going to my parents' house and making some
Not
jams.
prison.
Yeah, not prison. Believe it or not, there's a beautiful prison
It's
upstate.
a beautiful person. Actually, I want to go right there to your family, man. So I mean, of course, NPR, Tiny Desk. Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
huge deal to be able to do that. I mean, it's become so iconic, and I think it's become this platform, obviously, for independent artists and just to get that representation. And when you go on Tiny Desk, it's almost like this badge of honor. It's like we did the Tiny Desk. What did that feel like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bizarre ride. I mean, since it kind of came into my life as an idea, something that we were going to do about a year ago, and I actually did a video shoot kind of as a practice run for it that is released, live at Dimension 70.
Yeah.
Kind of trying to put it out into the world. Like, I want to do one of these.
Yeah.
I think the group I have could do a really good Tiny Desk. I'm not going to do a Tiny Desk contest, but I'm going to put one out. That's basically us doing a Tiny Desk. And I have a little bit of a relationship with the producer over there, Bobby Carter, who took over for Bob Boylan.
Yeah.
And around the time my album came out, we released those videos, and he was like, hey, man, I'd love to have you.
Wow.
And, decided to do a full thing with the strings and, definitely took over my life for a little bit, but it was like one of the more rewarding experiences, one of the more emotional music experiences I've ever had. And, my dad being there was super huge.
That's what I was going to ask, man. What was that like? Because not only do NPR, but then share it.
Yeah, it just
pops.
felt that much more special. And I think, he didn't get to do one of these either. It just occurred to me as I want to share this while we're here together and while we're both thriving. And, he had actually helped out on some records I've done recently,
Very cool.
During pandemic, one of the reasons I called one of my albums Homegrown is because I, did it all at home and people were coming to me Like my dad was actually coming over with a mask and tracking the strings for that album. So on like the track Groceries, which is like, my number one thing, that's my dad on the strings, doubling the Mellotron stuff that I had already done.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
So, he already kind of knew the music I was working on a little bit because he had played on a couple of the songs. And it just seemed like the right thing, And Sean, who arranged the strings for that, we've been working on a lot of stuff together. And I was like, Sean, just set it up, help me set it up for this to work. And, we were trying to figure out a big solo moment for my dad, but it was a short set, so it was like hard to figure out. We were just like, you're going to have a little solo up front. It's going to be a nice little moment. And, was able to go back there with Kiefer a couple months later. Yep. And I assume this won't be out in the next couple of days, so I could probably talk about I just musical directed one for The Locks, or Jadakiss' group.
Yes.
With Styles P and Chic Loge.
Yeah.
And that will be coming out, I think, this weekend.
Wow.
So that was a really special, very different kind of experience. I'd never met those guys till they were at the rehearsal the day before and the thing. So very night and day, kind of like being there with my dad doing this very thing that I put together versus like, oh no, this is like, it's a real thing now. So I've had, all sorts of kind of ranges of experiences in that room now. And it's, only been like 6 months of me knowing those guys. So it's already felt like a lifetime of being at NPR. And I was joking last time there, like, I'm going to start working here, and, it's definitely, I felt the Tiny Desk effect, I guess, this year. And people have been coming to the shows, and people have been really stoked about the performance. And
that's awesome,
people have been hitting me up. I haven't heard from them in 20 years. So
it feels like, can I get on Tiny Desk?
Right? Yeah, a little bit.
Check out my mixtape.
more so just, I'm really proud of you. It's, it means something to it like kind of means all things to all people is what I say. Because a lot of people's favorite artists in such different mediums have done a Tiny Desk, whether it's Fish or, Scarface. Yeah. And it's just a cool little room and a cool situation they got over there. And I'm just proud to be a very, very small part in like the history of the amazing stuff they've done just this year. I mean,
and I feel like the uniqueness of that room and the setups that are required because it is such a small space. And because what was that like? Like, how did you rethink performing those songs for that space?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely got to just take out all the little fun parts about your songs that are production tricks, which is somebody that is a big part of what I do, especially, stuff that I've made by myself, because I'm, kind of hiding up that I'm maybe not the greatest guitar player or not the greatest keyboard player. So, using a lot of effects and stuff to create soundscapes. Like, what do my songs actually just sound like acoustic and what ones actually work? And luckily, I've been making, Carrtoons music long enough now that I had enough that worked for 15 minutes in that world.
Yeah.
Do I have some that work for 30, 45? I don't really know. But, it was cool to like play those songs stripped down. And those were ones that mean a lot to me. And a few of those I made in my parents' house, actually. So it just...
playing it with dad, doing
playing
the
it
whole
with
thing.
dad was really special for it to come like full circle,
And you can hear it. I mean, there's an intimacy to those tracks, from that performance and it is special. And obviously, like, watching your dad play, but then look at you and you catch those little glimpses of, like, proud dad moment. It was really special. And I want to go back, actually. Like, can talk a little bit about... So I grew up in a musical house, too. My dad as well, a musician.
Right.
And so, that's my hero. Shout out, Joe Cortese. Love you.
Shout out.
To all the dads out there raising kids around music.
Yes.
What was that? What was the homegrown experience like for Ben Carr? Like... Where did it start? What did you listen to? What was your dad playing? What did you hate music?
No.
Was it like, I want to do what you're doing, Dad?
No, I loved music. I used to call in the local radio station. I loved music before I really started playing it. I was obsessed with the radio at that time, particularly like, I guess what we look back as pop punk or, the era where that and like, Diddy ruled the radio. I was like, loved both of those things equally.
Wow.
And I really was just excited about stuff. And I picked up a guitar in like 3rd or 4th grade because my dad just kind of snuck some instruments around the house. Yeah. And my brother was older and had already started playing guitar a little bit. And I started a band when I was in 4th grade. Because I was
Fourth grade.
I was so stoked on music. Yes, we were called Flash 44. And we played like pop punk stuff.
I love it.
We actually wrote different lyrics to pre-existing songs, almost like Weird Al or something like that. So I love musical comedy too. Never been able to really make that work in a context that I would want to share at all. But I've always done that, and I always liked getting silly with music and stuff too. So I was always messing around with that stuff. And we played Battle of the Bands super young, and was really focused on original stuff from the jump. We rarely past like 6th or 7th grade played any sort of a cover.
Interesting.
I was really trying to like make original music with my friends and get weird and like, we were inspired by like Led Zeppelin and stuff like that, but we wanted to make our own stuff with like delay pedals and all sorts of weird stuff. And looking back on it, it's pretty unorganized sounding and maybe a little too random. I needed the structure of music school and stuff later, I think, to kind of like tie it together and make it me able to actually translate some of the bigger ideas I had to more, hone it in a little bit.
But like, were you asking your dad like, hey, I hear you playing this, what's that? Were you inquisitive, or you were just kind of more observant?
I was observant, but he went in his studio every night and made music.
Really?
I would say that's the thing I really observed, is that, a craft is something you need to work on every day. And, from the time my dad got home from his school job, he taught orchestra at middle school and high school in Poughkeepsie. And he'd get home, 4 or 5 o'clock after working out, and he'd work on music till he went to bed, basically, like every day. And, he'd practice and, still at an older age. And I don't know, I think I learned a lot from that. And my mom, who worked so hard at the hospital job, like just the discipline of it all. So I started being a good practicer right away once I got into college, once I kind of like once I saw how meaningful this was, and like that I was able to practice sports really consistently younger. But college is when I started like taking the stuff that I'd seen my dad do and like turning it into something,
That's really cool. It's honestly, man, it's like weird even like hearing the backstory, because like it's literally identical to my mom was a doctor.
Oh, cool.
My dad was in music.
Oh, wow.
And so I had those two worlds as well. It's an interesting combination.
It happens more than people would think. I mean, that, it's nice to be grounded in that way.
Yeah.
And,
totally
my fiance now works at a dentist's office. So, an apple doesn't fall too far from the tree in that way. I love it. It's nice to have that, that structure, I suppose. And, but I asked my dad a lot of stuff. He taught me how to play some Nirvana songs. He taught me how to do stuff like that. But he was never really forcing jazz down my throat. He was never really like.
But were you hearing it a lot?
Not as much as people would think, because my dad has some like straight ahead albums that are out.
Yeah.
But he wasn't playing that anymore by the time I was a kid.
Huh.
He was like playing avant-garde stuff. So he'd go into Woodstock and play free music with some ladies like dancing around and being weird.
Oh, swag.
And, it was...
I love that.
It's on a range of good to weird, And, it was mostly avant-garde music I grew up with him. And mostly just jamming and improvising. So that's really what I like, the skill, the muscle of improvising I learned through playing with my dad, and just with no plan all the time, learning how to just play an E minor jam and try to keep it going for 40 minutes,
That's funny.
Yeah.
But like when you were young, so interestingly, same thing with me. Like I had this like all indie side of my life, and then deep hip hop. Love, from the Bronx, so that was in my blood. So I reconciling both sides, but then you got your avant-garde. As a young Ben, musically, how were you making sense of it all? Was it like, oh, this all makes sense together? Or were you already starting at a young age to say, okay, this is where I think I want to move for what I want to write and say?
Well, I was thinking back like recently as far as like, how did I get here? Like, how did I end up in the niche of like hip hop bass, I guess? And I just met Mike Elizondo for the first time. One of my favorite bass players of all time. And I told him, to his face, I was like, man, I saw a picture of you and you in a liner notes on, Chronic 2001. And it made me know that it was possible. Like there was something about, I don't know, that was like that, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And that guy's actually playing bass on this record, that's unbelievable. That's so sick. Yeah. I can't believe we even do the same thing.
Totally.
So that definitely, like, I was listening to a lot more Dr. Dre Chronic 2001 than I was listening to jazz. Let's be clear about that. And my friends at that time were not really super, like, open to that.
Yeah.
I had to like sneak in
I get that.
something, but it, you know, like Kind of Blue wasn't really making its way around my friend group at that time.
I get that. I mean, being a Steely Dan fan in high school did not go over well.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. You get it.
I
Like
get
you
it.
branch out. You don't realize there's all these kids out there that like totally
Yeah.
would vibe with it. You know, you're just hanging out with people that are
Yeah,
like, what
yeah.
is this?
No, I get you.
And yeah, I mean, I loved Motown. I always have. I worked at a YMCA that played a lot of oldies. So that had a big impact on me growing up. And like Jamerson is kind of in my blood from that without even like realizing it.
Love it.
You know, and when I would like DJ at parties in high school, I'd usually play only like Motown or soul and stuff like that. I was always kind of a little bit of an old soul in that way. And yeah, I mean, I've been trying to find whatever it is I like about that and whatever it is I like about newer music and putting them together and not just, you know, as somebody said to me the other day, like not just trying to like wear my dad's suit and put it on and like be in a soul band. And,
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to do something that's a little more forward thinking than that, but still rooted in the YMCA
But
pool that I worked at.
It's funny because I was like, a while back, I was like describing to my wife because I was listening to Homegrown and you know, she's asking about you and I said the best way to describe you, I felt like this is for me, was like it's like uncovering the best crate of records you've found in your parents' basement. It's this like awesome collection of just everything under the sun in a beautiful way. So I feel like then I kind of want to go back to the beginning with you because I feel like Upstate, Gift Tape, those records, you clearly hear the hip hop, all that stuff coming, and then it kind of evolves. You got collaborations with rappers and singers coming in. What was that evolution like for you?
Well, I think at the time, you know, branching out on your own when you've been just like a guy playing gigs for a long time as a producer, there's going to be a natural period where people are like, this, first of all, what you're showing me isn't amazing. And, you know, I don't really want to hop on this track or whatever. So you end up just making a lot of stuff because, you know,
you're trying to get your name out
there's nothing else. What else are you going to do?
No, I get it.
You can stop or just keep doing it.
Sure.
So, you know, around the time my band Mad Sada broke up, you know, I just started tried to make 3 beats a day for a long time.
And you think that was like your dad side of you kicking in? Like, hey,
I think that was just from the Kanye lyric or whatever the hell. I'd be lying if I said it was even. But yeah, I've always, you know, known like if I outwork people, I think that will give me a much better chance of actually doing this thing.
Interesting.
And yeah, definitely played a lot less bass in that time, and you know, got more connected to the music I was growing up on. You know, and at a yard sale, I bought this CD collection that was like 100 plus CDs for $15, and it was this kid who must have been my age, and his parents were selling his CD collection. Poor kid. And he had like Eminem and 50 Cent and all this stuff that I love still to this day. And I rinsed that whole CD collection in my car, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to make records now. Like this is, I'm connected to my former self in a way that's pure, and like this is the part of me I can't run away from. Like I think G Unit is genius. Like, you know what I mean? And a lot of other jazz nerds and stuff like that are maybe a little too afraid to like lean into that. That I really love that stuff too. And I haven't really changed my mind about that. You know what I mean? And I think around that time I started just believing in the stuff that I like. You know what I mean? And having zero shame about stuff that I was into, and realizing the weirder I could get and the more me I could be, the better the music was going to be, actually. You know, and, you know, started getting into some self-help stuff as well, which was helping me like, no, this is good. All this part of me that I've been trying to run away from, or that I think is weird about my playing or is like sloppy or not good, maybe it's cool. You know, who knows? And I think it turns out people are really connected to that part of my playing, which is great. You know, I go for stuff, you know, in a way that I think a lot of other people don't. I think seeing Thundercat last weekend, I was like, wow, maybe I don't go for stuff because he's really going for it. But you know, I like to think that I'm like pushing myself on stage, and you know,
I feel like people. I was listening to was it Rick Beato and Ted Goya? They did an interview recently as a futurist, and he was talking about like people desire authenticity.
Yeah,
they need to feel a sense of trust. with
Yeah.
whoever they're listening to, whoever
Yeah.
they're consuming content from. And I feel like, especially with your music, you hear more, especially these days, like, this is Ben.
Yeah.
This is who I am. You take it or leave it. And I love that, because I
Yeah.
think about how many young musicians are out there and
Yeah.
trying to, like, what's my sound? Just let it rock. We were talking about Sam Wilkes.
Yeah.
He's a great example of that too.
Just being unique, and like leaning into the things that are a little off kilter about yourself and about your sound. And, if people aren't rocking with it at first, that's like totally okay.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think most great genius projects, people weren't really rocking with it at first.
Yeah. I get you.
Me and Kiefer are really good friends now. And we talk about it all the time. It takes 5 years to get any great project going.
Wow, okay.
And
I
I
get that.
really think that to be comfortable in a project and for it to be truly great, generally takes about 5 years for it to develop to that great point.
Yeah.
And I only started Carrtoons like 6 or 7 years ago. So, I feel like the sky's really the limit as far as what I'm doing, and it's really just starting now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
As far as the world is concerned, it really did take almost exactly 5 years for people to kind of catch on to what I was doing. And it definitely took a lot of just having my head down and putting stuff out and really learning how to not worry about what people were reacting to it, and not worrying about the fact that it wasn't doing well. I mean, Upstate did horribly when I put that out. I mean, at that point, probably on monthly listeners at Spotify was still under 1,000. Even after that came out, when I was living upstate and was like calling production my career.
Interesting.
So
can you talk a little bit about that season? I feel like we don't always talk about for people like the failures or what we can see as failures, but
Totally.
what was those experience? I mean, did you say hands up, or were you like, oh no, we're going?
No, we're going. I mean, it definitely, I've had my moments of doubt with the thing, but I just don't know what else I could do. I'm just so invested in music at this point. I've been doing it since I was in 4th grade, like we were talking about. I love performing too. I really can't imagine a world without it in some context. Even if I wasn't doing it as my job right now, I'd probably be playing in a local band. I'd be messing around on Logic doing something. It doesn't really matter to me what level it's on. I just like creating, and I like doing it. So I think that's really important to have as a foundation, because then all the other stuff you can actually be really grateful for and really appreciate. And because I definitely know some very unappreciative people that are in some pretty unique situations that I don't know if they're aware of.
Wow,
and
that's interesting. Yeah.
I think a lot of the struggles I've had, I like to be honest about and like to talk about in these forums, because so many kids are going through it. And especially like the music school PTSD that's out there amongst kids in their 20s is just so deep. And it's like these kids don't know what to do with their thing, and no one's very honest about them with what they should do, or so I like to be a voice of reason for those people, like, get a job if you need to get a job right now. Learn, make a 5-year plan. Think a little bit more long term than just paying your rent right now. Wow. And that stuff was really helpful for me, and I feel I was able to get kind of out of a hole of my life where, week after week I had this church gig. I would have less than $10 in my bank account when I'd buy breakfast for it, and I'd get paid for that gig, and I'd live my life, and I'd make it through the next week. But I had a plan during that time, and I remember, I almost feel like it's bad luck to talk about certain things that I was trying to project into the world, but like certain things that I've definitely made happen in a very palpable way.
Yeah.
That was like deeper than just like envisioning or whatever kind of culture people kind of mock now. It's like really, it takes a lot of persistence, and I'm a very persistent person. I think that's really my skill. Like I'm very. I'll follow through with an idea if I have it. And, the ideas that I want to go through with, I love a lot. And I think that has been translating in my last couple records a lot more than it used to before.
So does Carrtoons and that project, let's call it, does that feel like this is the most authentic representation of Ben you're going to see, or is there sides of Ben musically that are still yet to be explored that don't fit in within the context of cartoons?
That's a great question. I mean, I think there's definitely like some jazz adjacent stuff I can do outside of the world of my own records. Mm-hmm. And, you know, playing with Nate Smith and stuff has really opened that up for me recently. You know, writing some stuff that isn't exactly for my friends from high school. Where Carrtoons is like very much like, this is the stuff that's rooted in like the people that I love the most and the stuff that we grew up listening together.
Okay.
And the stuff that would make us freestyle when we were drunk or whatever. Stuff that just got us very excited about music. Like, I want to capture that lightning in a bottle as much as I can. And if that means I got to make 300 beats to put out 10, I'll do that. You know?
Love it.
So yeah, that was my mentality, I think. Around the time I was doing Gift Tape and Upstate specifically. Really like very workaholic mode. I'm going to work through this tough period. And if, you know, I kept telling myself, if I'm undeniable, this will work. You know, and I've found that there's I'm not the only person to have this thought but undeniable is, you know, something I would write down in notebooks all the time, in my phone, you know, in my list of what I was going to do for the next 6 months, which I would do every 6 months, maybe more than that, you know? Just like, I'm going to get this album out by January, and like it would come out in March. But, you know, at least like...
But it was on paper, and
at least it was out there, and I was holding myself accountable for that. So I think that set up a lot of the good stuff that later came, you know, from the you know, I got attention from Saturday morning and everything after that, but those ones I was really grinding on, and the people that love those records love it in a real way, and it means a lot to me when I travel around. And you know, if someone is like, Carrtoons Volume 3 is my favorite record, that means the world to me, because like they've dug into my thing and they're clearly connected to a feeling that I haven't let go. That's for sure.
Well, I love that phrase you just said, holding myself accountable, which I think, you know, we don't talk about that side of it enough, right? It's like we wait for the affirmation of others around to say, hey, is what I'm doing good? But you were like, no, I'm going for it, whether you like it or not, and this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, and also, you know, I think for a long time I just wanted to play bass in a project that did well. And I realized that that's so out of my control. I'd just be sitting around at my house waiting for a call when I'm 40, saying like, hey, I'm good, like somebody trust me. But I needed to really put the proof out there, and I needed, you know, I always say my Instagram is like my business card now for getting gigs. The amount of gigs I've gotten that nobody heard me play in person till the night of the show is insane. I mean, like, I don't know why people even trust me this much. I could be editing by playing. I could be doing crazy stuff. But people just, like, on face value, they're like, there's hundreds of these videos. I've heard this kid play, basically.
I love
so
that.
That's really been helpful as far as the, you know, I was really getting in my own way at that time, I think, you know. I think I had the very toxic, you know, I didn't think I did, but I did. Woe is me, you know, why does this guy have this gig kind of thing, which the sooner you can let go of that, the easier your life is going to be, you know.
And can you talk about that a little bit? That's an interesting point, because
you just see contemporaries, you know, doing great stuff. And I think in the age of social media, it's like healthy and normal to see that stuff and to have a weird reaction to it, right? Because like, how are you supposed to take that? It's like somebody's having a birthday party in front of you every day. It's like, it's a lot. Oh. It's a lot. And, you know, in a world where I knew all these very talented people, it was hard for me to not look around and say, like, why not me?
Yeah, and I think we forget how deep that goes for some people. It's like,
totally. Man. It goes back to other stuff that's not even music related.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah,
imposter syndrome's real, man. Like,
So, the imposter syndrome is something I'm still working on to a certain extent. You know, even being in company. Even in being in a room like this, I'm like, this is crazy. Like, this is awesome. I mean, I have so much reverence for this company and for, you know, so many things. So it's just cool to be, you know, considered now. And I really appreciate that. And I always tell people, I just want to be a part of the music as a whole. I don't really want. I don't need anything to center around me or any of that. It's just, you know, it's a contribution, and I think the sooner everybody else can kind of, particularly bass players, can get on this page with that.
Yeah, for real.
You know,
I think we stay a little bit too in our own world.
Yeah,
a little bit. And it's like there's a bigger community out there. The stage has other bandmates.
And bass players have so much to offer in general. And I think I was selling myself short in a really crazy way as far as just telling myself I couldn't do stuff in the production world because I knew these people that were so great at other instruments and stuff. But bass players are great at organizing ideas, great at organizing people, and those kind of skill sets that are less like shreddy, really, but are more about like humanity. I was like, I got to lean into that stuff because that's kind of what I'm good at. I'm like, there's going to be guys in the Victor Wooten world, or I'm sure there's better examples now of younger people that can play their asses off. But, even Aaron, just like a 10-year-old kid that can play better than me is crazy. It's ridiculous.
It's a phenom.
God bless, you know? And so it just makes me be like, okay, I'm going to lean into another thing that I'm very good at. He's very good at that. And I think he should continue to shred because he's so good. And, I'm going to continue to write lyrics to songs and these things that, I've been doing since I was in 4th grade.
Yeah, I think it's
since I was his age.
It's like supporting that idea that you have something to say and share. There is space for you at the table.
Yeah.
I remember I was at a museum and it was this line from this artist and he said, it was a quote, and he was like, all art is thought made form. Don't overthink it. And I feel like in the music world, I heard it from someone as, don't just show up for the act you came to see, stay for the opening act. And I feel like your music, it makes space for everyone, which talk about a little bit, if you can, about the community aspect of what you do. Because there's some names that we see, obviously we know Joanna and you guys go back like car seats, but everyone else, you start to see these names. Talk about the building of community that's happened with these projects.
Yeah, I think the one that sticks out right now is Ray Khalil's really been having a moment recently. I think a lot of people kind of
check him out.
Discovered through my albums, which was great. And, we had kind of done a couple favors for each other. And, I made some beats for her album. She's a feature on mine. And, now she's the only person that's on the No Worries album twice, I believe. And, is on the Anderson .Paak album that just came out. There's a really exciting single that I just produced that will be on that as well. And, I found her through another producer named Maxwell, the Australian guy.
Yeah.
And, he became a kind of like a mentor, older brother to me. And he was like, you got to check her out. And there's so many people that have just kind of believed in each other. And now every time I play a show, I feel like it's like a family reunion because I have so many guest features and people coming through, and all these people are meeting each other, and they're like, they already feel like they're family before they even meet a lot of the time because they know each other kind of through my music as the connector. They both co-signed my thing, and I don't know, it's just a very beautiful thing. And those are some of the more proud moments for me, at my last couple, album releases when everybody was kind of came out, and I realized all these people are friends now, and I'm a small part of that. I'm not the only reason part of it, but I like to be the person that I like to be the connector between really talented people. I think that's a big part of what I do. And saying because I think a lot of people love to be like, you got to get in a room with this person. You guys are so similar. I don't do that unless I really mean it. Unless I really mean it. And people know that. People know I'm not just going to set you up with some guy that kind of whatever. I'm going to set you up with some guy that's going to I going to make your record.
Yeah, because the connection
is
you guys are kindred
spirits. Yeah, I can feel it. You guys, I know that you guys are both silly. I know that you guys are both very serious, whatever. And I'm very good at reading people's vibe in that way.
So when certain tracks, that whether it's Homegrown or any of these albums, did you have these people in mind? Was it serendipitous? Was how did you do that?
It depended on the situation, but a lot of times I send somebody one song and I say, I need you to be on the song for my album. And it depends on who it is. Sure. Nigel will say, if you write it for me, I'll do it.
Really?
And then I'll write it and then he'll do it. Or Ray likes to write her own stuff. Yeah. Joanna and Julia like to write their own stuff. It's kind of situation dependent, and I can usually tell right away whether somebody's going to do it or not. At this point,
you just know.
There's a certain energy that people give you. It's either exclamation points or not a lot. So and it's hard to tell somebody, hey, I don't want to. I'm not really feeling this or whatever. So
I get you.
I shoot my shot with a lot of people too.
I love it.
I think on each of those records, I've shot my shot with a ton of people that didn't work out too. On the one I'm working on is probably the most I've reached out to people.
Okay.
And I'm really excited to share that and like kind of create the next chapter of things, which will, be expanding the family even more, I think.
Yeah. I get you.
And the people that have seen it are like, wow, it's cool. You got all the homies, but you got
these
some other people too.
I dig that.
So that will be cool. And, hopefully it will legitimize my friend group and it will legitimize this crew that I've been building in a nice way too. And I figure whatever we can put on the back of, Carrtoons is like different than me at this point.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's almost kind of got its own life to it now at this point?
Yeah, there's definitely a little separation for me. In public I can be Carrtoons, but at home, like if somebody starts calling me Carrtoons, I'm like, this is making me uncomfortable.
I get that. So wait, so now that it's an interesting point. So now that it is kind of evolved into its own thing, how are you looking at, like, how do you view that project now?
Oh, it's just, I don't know. It's music.
It's just fun.
It's just like, it's all things encompassing music for me. It's like, I can put almost everything under that umbrella as far as like what I contribute to it or, I can be kind of a lot of different things now. And now that I've had songs where I only sang on it, I only played bass, I only did drums on it. It's like, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever stuff that I want to co-sign and I think is great, that can be Carrtoons.
Yeah.
Whatever stuff that I'm making, I generally want to be, anything that I'm going to put the name Carrtoons on, I want to be writing it in some way.
Got you.
I generally,
so that's like the continuity.
Generally it's not just playing bass at this point.
Yeah.
Generally I won't be a featured artist on stuff. I just
you're a multi-instrumentalist.
It's just confusing for people. I think it implies that I produced it in a way that is maybe unfair to other producers sometimes too. So there's like politics to that whole thing too.
So can I ask you about the term producer? I feel like,
what the hell do I do?
No, well I feel like to me, like producer it's evolved over the years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, producer in the 60s and 70s is very different.
Yeah.
David Foster compared to,
sure,
producers now. So I guess kind of two questions. Do you like the term producer? And if so, why? What is that? How does that connect to Ben, the musician and the artist?
Right.
And for those that are, listening to this, especially younger musicians who are like, well, I thought producer was the music exec, person that's in the studio and running the ship. But that hearing Ben, that sounds like an outlet for me. What do you say to those?
Well, I would say the way I look at production is as about as simple in elementary school as you could think of it, as I make stuff.
Love it.
I make stuff. All right. That's what I do as a producer. It's all sorts of stuff. And I think people want as far as like credits on albums, that's a little different. But as far as like calling myself a producer, that's what I mean. Like I am a creator of things and I help people finish their things too. I think that's probably what I do better actually, is really, taking people's ideas that they think are great and guiding them to the finish line on it, and making stuff and finishing stuff. As far as like an actual studio thing, the definition of it is super hard to, pinpoint these days. And I've really had to learn a lot about it. And I think any young person's going to learn a ton about, if you make a beat, what that actually means as far as the way you're credited now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you a songwriter? Kind of. There's a lot of kind of.
Well, in that Rick Beato interview, he goes, that some records now, it's like you got 20 names on the credits. It's like they didn't all work together to write 4 chords.
Yeah.
Like there's other things that happen, but I love how you just phrase it, which is I just create stuff and this is what so having you're interesting because you've got the all in where you're doing everything.
Yeah.
And then you've had now experience too on that other side working with obviously some big names and things like that. So what are some of the takeaways for you that you've gotten from both sides? Being on the studio side and then being on I'm at home making my beats.
Well, I think the biggest takeaway that comes to mind is that I think working on your own music allows you to take out the ego of working with other people. Or not maybe take it out, but relieve a lot of that.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when you're able to, get your own ideas out and really explore who you are as an artist and really get into that without any other thing.
Yeah.
when you're with a group of other people, you're not trying to secretly get that idea that you've been trying to get out this whole time out.
Like you're serving something else.
Yeah, you're not serving the music in that moment. You're serving yourself. You're serving this idea you've had since you were 13 and you really wanted to try. It's not, those two things are not the same. And I've been in a room with a lot of people that are trying to get out some sort of like childhood dream of you as an Echoplex on a song that didn't need it a million times. You know, it's just, you know, you got to know the situation and really understand what it needs, I think.
Interesting. And so what, do you have a preference now these days about which one you get more out of? Or
I need to do a combination of both.
Got it.
You know, I think when I work on somebody's record for a week and I like really enter, you know, I did Reuben James' album last year, a UK artist who's great. You know, we did a couple like week-long writing camps. And when I get home from that, nothing better than just working on my own album again, be like, okay, let's enter my own world. My songs sound good again. I haven't heard them in a minute. This is cool. You know what I mean? So I like to do those deep dives to give me my own perspective on my own project a lot. And I will do that about 6 times per project. Like fully step out of it, then hear it again, because that's the only way I can give real notes. Of like, this actually kind of sucks, even though I worked really, really hard on this.
I get that.
You know, like even though I spent like a full week on this, I can let it go now because there's been enough time that went on, and like, you know, whatever, I shouldn't put this out.
And do you, I mean, considering, you know, we talked about community, do you have a community of people around that like, hey, when you're working on stuff, is that very much a you only kind of experience? Or do you have some trustworthy people that you're like, hey man,
I got a couple people, but I am really insular. I'm not really interested in people's opinion about my stuff. I mean, it's fine. I mean, it's cool, but like I have like a good friend who mixes most of my stuff, Josh Pleater, shout out. I'll send him my stuff. That's about it. I've, you know, people who are helping me with, you know, either like management type stuff.
Sure.
I'll send them stuff sometimes, but not always. And yeah, I mean, right now I got to update my playlist for other people.
Yeah.
I have some stuff that only I've heard. You know, I gotta get better about that. But you know, I don't really need the notes as much as I used to. I mean, I was really open to it for a long time, and I was like, please tell me what I need to work on.
Yeah.
I think more than not, when I show somebody, they're saying something I already know I need to work on.
Okay.
And it you know, sometimes, you know, especially when stuff's like half baked.
Yeah.
You know, showing it to other producers can be like maybe a little like. It can sometimes dilute your own version of your vision too, I think sometimes. If you're like really inspired on something and someone else maybe isn't really in the same page as you and they come over and they hear it and you read too much into the reaction or whatever.
Yeah. Imposter syndrome kicks in.
And, so I try to like wait till I'm presenting stuff in a fair way for people to digest it too.
Got it.
And, you know, I've said this a million times, but I make a lot of songs and try to turn it into a little. So, you know, I'm pretty good at just doing that myself. Stuff that I can listen to over and over and over again makes the cut, and stuff that I can't doesn't. I mean, that's just like...
So I guess it's funny. So you just said doesn't make the cut, and I'm thinking about Saturday morning and Saturday night. Was that originally a single project? Was that a 2-part project? How did that album kind of pan out?
Saturday night was just because Saturday morning went well, and I had, you know, a couple leftovers from it, I suppose. But Saturday morning Carrtoons was an idea I wanted to do from jump.
Okay.
And I wanted to make an animated movie, actually.
Word?
Yeah, I mean, I still do. I still keep putting this out there. If there's an animator that...
Okay, if you're listening and watching, please fund this project.
Yeah, I mean, I want to do like a short thing that, you know, accompanies an album. At some point, because that was when I started the name Carrtoons, a big part of initially what I wanted to do, like a beat tape that had a animated thing along to it, very in the Adult Swim world. But I think I could do something that maybe told a story now too.
Interesting.
So, you know,
where did that inspiration come from?
I don't know.
I love it.
Just the name.
You didn't know.
Just the name and I don't know, stuff I like.
Yeah. I dig it.
And I'm an ideas guy too. I'm not the best at finishing all of them, but you know, I'm an ideas guy, and that's just one of those that's kind of been on the back burner for a while. So that, you know, I had a bigger idea and I was able to execute a version of it.
I love that.
And yeah, I mean, that was definitely, Saturday morning was definitely made it like one of the more difficult times of my life for a few different reasons.
Yeah.
You know, like some family death stuff, some other stuff, and, you know, just really seeing what music means to you.
Wow.
And yeah, made a couple of those tracks in my parents' kitchen when they were on vacation. I was kind of in between places and like the closest I've ever been to homeless, I suppose. And yeah, Give It Up. I think about that all the time. When I showed it to my dad, he was like, "What the hell is this?" He's like, "What?"
Sweat,
and he laughed.
really?
He was like, "What is this, man?"
Really?
Like, yeah, I mean, so, you know, I didn't get great reactions from even when I was working on it. It definitely felt like it was a little weird to the people. You know, I just made Upstate and I was just getting electronic.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, nah, I don't like that anymore.
Interesting.
And I actually made a version of Saturday Morning that I deleted all of it. I still have those sessions and stuff, but I started from scratch on it just because it wasn't feeling quite right. And that was kind of my transition out of the Upstate period, though. I had some stuff that was kind of in between those worlds, but like it wasn't focused sounding.
Sure.
And yeah, I had to start over again, you know? And I started singing on my stuff a lot more around that time. Thanks to a friend, Chris Keys, amazing producer. Went over to his house and he was playing instruments on everything. He was singing on everything. And he was just so unashamed of whatever. And just so like, yes, this is me. Like, you got to use your voice, man. Even if it's not good, it's the most pure version of you you're going to get. Like,
wow.
And it really stuck with me, I'm saying that. So I was like, all right, I got to sing some oohs or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, that period was really trying out so many new ideas because I hadn't really messed around with singing, you know, since I was in high school. And, you know, mess around with drum production in a way I hadn't in a long time, where I was like, let's try to make this really sound real. Like, not just like close to real, but like really fool people. And that's still a work in progress. You know what I mean? I still hear stuff from 4 years ago. I'm like, this isn't it.
But I just love this like thread of like being authentic to yourself, learning how to embrace yourself, learning how to affirm what you're doing musically.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder like, okay, if more people are gonna, especially younger musicians, gonna do that, it's like, man, there's such beautiful art out there that we haven't heard yet. And
totally.
We need people to put it out there to hear.
We need these YouTube kids. Believe in yourselves.
Yo,
no, because I mean, the level of talent out there now is insane, I think. But also the level of, you know, overthinking is probably at the highest it's ever been.
God,
I can't imagine, you know, you went to college during COVID and you're trying to figure out your life in music right now. I mean,
yeah, like forget being intimidated at Berkeley. Like, just go on YouTube for 10 minutes and you're like, oh, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah,
you know?
totally. And, you know, when I was 13 or 12 maybe, I found a video of Victor Wooten on LimeWire that like changed my life.
Wow,
that's all I needed.
For those that are listening, LimeWire was that was there was Napster. Everyone knows Napster, but LimeWire was like
much more popular as far as millennials are concerned. Sorry. And yeah, like
don't come after me, Sony.
Yeah, they made some damage.
They did big damage.
But anyway, I can't imagine having like a more infinite version of that. You know. It almost seems like it would be too much. You know what I mean? Like, I think having a more limited, like, these are the couple videos I can check out right now. I'm going to learn them as much as I can. Seems maybe a little more reasonable.
So wait, like, Ben, like, what do you say to, like, those young musicians that are, they're going on YouTube, they're checking people out, they hear all the people that you're talking about, and they go back home and they're like, I'm not ready to put me out there. Yeah. What do you tell that person?
Well, you don't have to put yourself out there until you're ready to do that. I think that's important to know. I think there's a unfair pressure that everything needs to be on social media now, and you're allowed to be sloppy and just like live your life. And I think that is lost in the process. I think people maybe don't know that side of me because I don't share it on social media very often. But yeah, I mean, not everything's going to be great. You're going to have to miss a lot to make good stuff. Yeah, and like, you know, I think it's not an instantly gratifying thing. It's particularly playing bass. You know, even though it's something you can get at good and play gigs quickly, it's not always, it's a long, it's a long thing. And, you know, if you're in it for a short-term thing, like a short-term attention span, like YouTube, then you're not going to get the most out of it. But, you know, it's also important to have a vision of like what what do you actually want to do with this thing? Like, do you want to play in a rock band? Do you want, like, what do you actually want to do? Not like what are the confines of what you can do? You know what I mean?
That.
And I think for me, you know, I could either go to music school for classical music or jazz at the time. There wasn't any electric program outside of Berkeley. And you know, I wasn't able to go to Berkeley. So then what do you do? Right? And that's the definition of making your own lane, right?
Yeah.
So like that's like the most overused thing ever. But you know, I'm at the point where I could potentially teach electric bass that didn't exist at my old school. You know what I mean? So it's just like the world is moving. You got to kind of see where it's going a little bit and believe in that. And believe in your vision of that to a certain, like, you know, this kind of music is good. This is going to break through. Let me, you know, let me do more of that.
I dig that.
Or whatever, you know? And I feel like I've been early to a couple different, like, musical bandwagons, which has helped me too.
Got you.
You know what I mean? I feel like I was making a lot of, like, stuff that sounded kind of like Hiatus Coyote around the time that they were doing it, and we're like, great. You know what I mean? Like, cool. Like, we can kind of lean into that now and do a little bit more of that. And, you know, I don't think that's a bad thing, especially when you're, you know, a young, like, college band trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, find your tribe, you know, like, find your tribe and lean into those people, and those people become a support system to you.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, like, music being that. So I'm thinking about the bands that we're talking about. Hiatus Coyotes, one, you know, because for me, like, I grew up around a lot of jazz. My dad, you know, played Mingus and Dolphy and stuff like that. And then I had Zeppelin, and then a lot of soul. Like,
sounds like our dads got to hang out, first of all.
All right, let's do it. Dads, we're hanging out. We're going upstate. And then, like, a lot of gospel stuff. That was, like, a big part of my childhood. But also, I think, kind of to what we're talking about, you know, you try to make sense of this stuff as a young person, and you find a new voice to try to express where all that stuff, it all comes from somewhere, which I don't think is like a bad thing necessarily. Right. But like, I feel like when we're talking about bands like Hiatus Coyote, like, when I heard them, I was like, oh, okay, there's a world where, like, a little avant-garde jazz, a little, like, just angry stuff can come out. Yeah. And that was really affirming. And I feel like with your music, hearing hip hop, soul, and then just also classic songwriting, it was for me personally, like, it just made me feel way more secure. Same thing with Sam Wilkes. You know, hearing his ambient side and, like, weird loopy, and then, like, pocket like a mother. Yeah. And so for Ben, what's next? What's the stuff that you haven't explored yet that you want to start exploring?
Well, I'm gonna get even more psychedelic, I would say, probably.
Yes.
Because I'm very rooted in psychedelic music in general, and I'm a trippy guy. No, this
is a family-friendly podcast.
No, I've been working on an album very, very kind of with those kind of themes, and it's been, you know, helping me explore that thing. And I just wanted to push myself. How can I get deeper with this? And how can I get even more truthful? And you know, part of it's for me making longer songs right now.
Okay.
Just to get outside of the zone of, I don't want to be the guy that makes the same album a bunch of times.
When you say longer, like with improvisation or just longer composition?
Some, but just in general, I had a lot of 2-minute jams. I like 2-minute songs a lot. But I think I want to force myself to do a couple different song forms and, you know, just force myself to do a couple other things rooted in the same stuff that's, like, means a lot to me. Like, sonically, there's definitely going to be some overlap as far as tones and as far as, you know, the drums that I like.
Yeah. And your bass sound, too, I feel like.
Yeah. There's just going to be a lot of that. Yeah. But as far as the, you know, features on it, the way that I want to present it, you know, and I think my engineering and mixing has got a lot better too. Not that I'm mixing the next record, but, you know, as far as getting things to a better place while I'm working on it, you know, it's always a work in progress. But I feel like the next one is going to be a really special one. I'm really going to take my time on it.
That's awesome.
And, you know, hopefully it can make a nice splash when it comes out. And, you know,
I can't wait. Seriously.
But, you know, it's gonna be a minute. It's gonna be a minute. But I you know, I have probably 90% of it, but the last 10% always takes me a long time.
Because do you feel like that last 10%? It's like now I'm discerning what I put down, and I got it.
Yeah, and you know, I'm very good at editing. You know, I think that's one thing that I don't want to like be trying to hide secrets from people. I have a math brain. And the one reason I'm good at production is because I'm good at editing audio. I'm very fast at it, and like the people that are very good, the people that are better than me, watch them edit audio and they're insane. They're unbelievable.
It's art and science.
Yeah. It's like it's really like coding art.
Yeah,
and and the people that are good at it kind of have like a coding brain a little bit like I do, and that's the secret behind this whole thing. It's like, oh, like, do you have great ideas? Can you also do them like really fast and like operate a computer like it's part of you? And that's really hard. That's hard to get ideas out fast in a way that feels like natural still and doesn't feel like, oh, we just got out like the demo idea version of it.
I took one math class in college and I got a C, so you're like such an
Hey,
inspiration.
man, not everybody's got to be good at math, but I do think that I've noticed amongst people that, especially if they're engineering a lot, there is definitely an overlap in those things, and I think that gives me a little bit of an advantage in a way. But you know, I also know plenty of people that are amazing at math that their music is terrible, or you know. And people that
music sounds like math.
People that are engineers that are getting good tones recorded, but maybe like there's some sort of disconnect there. I mean, that's like maybe the number one problem. I feel like everybody I've ever bought some gear from on Reverb is probably suffering from this disease in some way. And on that note,
this is a wrap. But like, I love. Thank you. Well, first of all, I can't wait. I'm excited for that, and I loved this. Man, I can't wait. Psychedelic. All right, this is gonna be interesting. I can't wait.
I'll show you some after we wrap.
Not for you, but you know, as we kind of wind down this conversation, man, there's so much, dude. Like you've just shared. I feel like, I mean, even though I know, you know, we got the producing background, we got the collab, we got all this stuff that we're talking about. I just want to say I really appreciate you affirming people who are out there with imposter syndrome, trying to be their authentic selves with their art and their music and tune out the noise, you know. So I think that's amazing. What for you, if you can give us 2 albums or 2 people or whatever that you can say, man, that left a mark on me forever and has definitely shaped who I am now as an artist, who or what would that be?
I'm gonna give less obvious ones.
Please.
I'm gonna give Leon Silvers, bass player from the band The Silvers, produced The Whispers and many other great acts from the 70s and 80s. Very similar to Jamerson style as far as bass playing, and very kind of underlooked as far as his playing is concerned. And I would say I took a lot of cues from that production and bass playing. As far as a more obvious one, I would say Rick Rubin is just my guy.
Rick Rubin.
Yeah, I love Rick. I don't care. You could say a ton of bad stuff about it. I don't care.
I love it.
His work speaks for itself.
Sure.
It's the example of exactly what we're talking about right now. He's a weird guy from Long Island that likes wrestling, and he has believed in himself, and to the point where people believe in him.
Yeah,
and you know he's created so much amazing art that is just so cool, and I think people don't really understand, you know, the mysticism that is really behind creating good stuff, and like the energy behind what you make and the energy in the room is real. And you could believe it. It's not if you want.
No, I get.
But Rick is doing something. He might not be playing music, but he's doing something. Yeah. And I love him, and I think he's a great thing to debate about amongst young producers.
Yeah.
I think that keep debating about it. That's great. I think that's a great conversation to have for people. Yeah. What does he really do? It's great. I think he does a lot.
Yeah.
But other people, you know, they have their own things, and let them learn that what he does is very special. Let them be in a room with a guy that produces like that, and it's very different, and it can get really, really good results if you're open to it. And for me, I was very reluctant to have an outside producer in my life when I was just playing and stuff. And the first producer, who's a great producer that kind of came in and produced my band, I hated the idea of it a lot. When it was presented to me, I was almost offended by it.
Wow.
That we would need a producer, right? And that's all ego-based, you know? And I think what he does is so anti that it's really hard for people to wrap their heads around.
That's a good point, yeah.
But I love Rick. I think he does a really special thing, you know, despite whatever criticism there is.
And last question for you, for of course everyone that's listening, man, drop us some names and some people that we might have not heard of that we should be checking out.
I like the new Claro album a lot. Just anything on Big Crown Records right now.
Big Crown, yeah.
Lady Ray, super great. The Nora Jones album was really good. They just kind of like a machine over there. So I've been encouraging people to listen to things that Big Crown Records is putting out. I think they're amazing. So
very cool. Well, Ben, man, what a rich conversation, dude. I'm so happy we got to
Thank you for having me, man. This is a pleasure.
No, this was so much fun. For those that haven't followed you or may not, where can they find you?
At _Carrtoons on all socials, and Carrtoons with 2 R's and 2 O's on all streaming stuff.
Love it. Ben, thanks so much again, homie.
Thank you so much. I didn't play any bass, but I promise I can play.
He really can play bass. I don't know if you know, but he does play bass. So listen to him because he plays bass. But Ben, pleasure, homie.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate that.